I would like to start taking the band Blue Front's Karma to accepting these invitations to the first episode of the podcast Highway to Noise.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys. I don't expect it. I didn't even accept this thing, but thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Cheers. Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. This is fun.
Well, I would like to start letting each member introduce themselves. Tell me each one names.
Well, I'm Shay on guitar.
I'm Tommy. I play the drums.
I'm Kevin. I'm also on guitar.
I am Justin, and I am your vocalist.
I'm Ian on bass.
Cool. My first question is going to be, I want to ask you guys, what are your political views?
I don't really have any.
Oh my god!
Soft question right off the bat.
Right out of the gates.
I don't know if you've ever watched South Park, but to me, it is just like the one episode every single year where you choose between a turd sandwich and a douche.
Fuck politics. We are here for the
Absolutely.
music. That's the most important thing right now. And I want you to tell me about the next, the first show, right, in Reggies, August 17th.
Yes, sir.
I would like you to take me a little bit about it.
Well, that's August 17th, right?
August 17th.
August 17th.
August 17th.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah, we're gonna be
Saturday.
playing in the music joint. So, because there's the big room, the rock club, and then there's the bar, which is the music joint. So we'll be in there.
Yep, we're playing with a Hammerhead, Psychic Nurse, and then within patients. Damn. But yeah, so should be a lot of fun. It's been like 2 years in the
God.
making to finally put this together. So we're extremely excited.
This has been being built forever by our guitar player right here, Shay. Like, I mean, he reached out to me, and we just kind of went from there and just kept building and finally got this great group of guys. And like I said, man, we're gonna go and rock that place out at Reggie's. 30-minute set, but we're gonna do it.
30 minutes at cool.
It's gonna be the most brutal 30 minutes you've ever seen.
I'm sure I'm gonna be there for sure.
Awesome.
Yes.
The disappointing thing, the original date for our first show was going to be 420, which is
Yes.
Oh, my
perfect date
goodness.
for Blunt Force Karma.
I
Like,
had so many rolled up and ready to go.
Yeah, that was such a disappointment when that fell through.
And that's my next question. I know your name, Blunt Force Karma, remind me bands like Cabela Conspiracy, Damage Plan, of course, Dying Fetus, who is my favorite band. You have any influence by these bands?
yeah, I mean, well, Blunt Force Karma, I was listening to Damage Plan, and I really love that song, Blunt Force Trauma, and then love wordplay so much. So, yeah, I think it sounded pretty fierce and, pretty exactly what we wanted to go for. So.
Yeah, so we I would say between me and this guy, we've been in, 2 different bands together. And between both bands, it's just like trying to find a name that works, that hits the spot you want it to is like almost impossible. And before we even really had a chance to play with anything, this guy came in and was like Blunt Force Karma, and I was sold on it right away. I'm like, that's a great name. Yeah.
It's good to come out of the gates with a name because especially in this day and age, so many great names have already been taken.
Yes.
So and I've been in so many bands where we went months not being able to figure out. We'll come up. Oh, that's a great one. Then you look it up and it's like there's 5 other bands with
You
that
need to go
same
to
name.
Encyclopedia Metallum and check the name.
Yeah. So
exactly.
it was great finding that they were able to find. I mean, as in Justin and Shay, who founded the group. It was great that they were able to come up with something that wasn't taken and that kind of sums up what the music is about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have anything right now.
Are you involved in the Chicago scene? For how long are you involved?
Oh God, I mean, playing with this guy had to have been at least the last 7 years, something like that.
Yeah, we're at 7 years now.
Before that, I mean, I've been doing this thing since I was 13 13 years old. I'm 39 as of yesterday. I mean, I've been playing in and out of Chicago forever, man. But to be honest with you, like this and even my last band it's been the greatest experience, and I cannot wait to share the stage with these guys.
Yeah, at least the music is really really good.
Oh yeah.
You know, I know you recorded with the song Hellraiser with
Hellfire,
you know?
yeah. So yeah, no, that was all this guy, man. He, like I said, we were in another band. We fell out. I'd actually joined up another band, and this guy one day just Shay, my guitar player, decides to send me a message with hey, we got some new stuff. You want to check it out and see if you're interested? And I listened to the Hellfire song with just him and one of the other guys that was playing bass, and literally it was a pre-programmed drum track that he had over this, so it wasn't even as good as what we actually have now, and it was just like, I have to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's before we found, the awesomeness that is Tommy here, where I had to, pre-program things and be like, that sounds like where a snare should go, and Justin's going, no, it's not. Yeah.
Talking about, I would like to know how is the process of songwriting, the creating the music.
Well, so realistically, Shay, our guitar player, has been like the number one on writing, to be honest with you. Like, usually it comes from him first, and then we all just work with it. He'll write a million different tracks, and then we have to all catch up. But anyway, he'll write some awesome guitar riffs and everything, send them to all of us, and we just kind of branch off from there. Like, we'll get a drum track on there, possibly another guitar track right away, bass. If I'm feeling influenced and, like, I hear his track, which has happened a couple times, where I'm like, nope, I already got vocals, guys. Like, it was, like, spilling on the page for me, But, yeah, basically we do a lot of file sharing and just kind of work with each other and branch off of each other's ideas.
Yeah, we don't get to see each other as much as we, and rehearse as much as we might like. So it's actually really interesting. This is the first time I've been in a group where, like, the entire writing process is pretty much like remote.
Yeah.
But it's also nice too, because like it's made it so that when we do get together at practices, everybody already kind of knows what they're going to do. So we tend to not waste a lot of time at practice, especially since, we usually practice at like a rehearsal space where we're paying, per hour. We usually since we do, like, we have a shared Google Drive. So like when we get together, it's like, everybody already kind of like knows what they're going to do. And we already have a pretty good idea of the arrangement. So that way we get to focus on just jamming and like just tightening up the performance. And then like we'll make like little tweaks here and they're like, oh, like there was one song we were working on recently where we said, oh, maybe we should extend this one section, or like, since, we've got two guitar players, so maybe we should come up with like a harmony part for this, and maybe we'll work it out a little bit. And it's like, oh, we should do that for a little longer, or maybe this part's a little too long, we shorten it up, or things like that. But, most of the actual writing is like already done. So like, I think that actually has become like a real strength, because we've been able to crank out songs fairly quickly because of that.
Yeah.
And about the lyrics, everyone can bring ideas, or someone is in charge of that?
No. I
mostly,
am an open book when it comes to, hey, if you got ideas, throw them at me. If you're feeling froggy and you want to jump on the track with me and do backups, I'm not opposed. Like, obviously, every vocal, especially when you're doing live, helps. Your harmonies, everything else. Like my man Kevin right here, I've been forcing him to do a bunch of backups with me, and it's you can ask the rest of these guys. Shay has also done a lot of the growls and stuff with me, and you can ask these guys when they actually do it and jump in. It's like, oh my god, it sounds that much better because it's more full. It's just, you get that fierceness behind it, But when it comes to writing, for the most part, yes, I write probably almost 100% of the vocals, but Like I've told them, like I'm an open book, man. You guys got some ideas, throw them at me, and we'll incorporate them. So like again, like I said before, we work together. Like same thing. If I'm an ex bass player. If I hear something that I want him to do, I can throw it at him. They both play guitars. They bounce back and forth off each other. The only man that really gets no conflict from any of us is our drummer.
Well, it also helps that everybody's just really good at what they do, so there isn't a whole lot of messing around, you know.
Well, you can feel free to tell me what to do, guys.
It's hard to explain.
Well, no, that's one of the most rewarding things about being in this band is because everybody is just so good at what they do. It's like I said, when we get together, you know, most people have already kind of worked out what they want to do, so like. And there's usually very little critique needed because like we'll hear what Justin wants to do with the vocals and he'll be like, that sounds great, and then and we'll do demos too, you know. So Tommy will lay down drums on like a demo and be like, that sounds great, and then Ian will come in with his bass part, so it's like, that sounds great. So like it's just really great that there's not a lot of talk needed. It's just like getting the performances tight, but like everybody in the band is just so good at what they do that it makes it easy.
Yeah, no head bumping basically. Like I mean, and that's where you want it. Like every band I've ever been in, that's the downfall of everything is you always got one person or a couple people in that band that want to fight everybody else in the band on what needs to happen, how it needs to happen, and everything else, as into where we work it out.
or just making the process complicated. I was in a band, I'm not going to name any names, but it was just emails back and forth, and it was just annoying. These guys had a Google Drive, all organized and perfect. I asked Shay to set up some session files so I could load it on my DAW, and I could do some demos, and he got everything, and it was easy. It's just nice having that cooperation.
This is also like after so much trial and error of like, okay, let's like, that was the original, it was like trading emails back and forth, and it's like, why is my Gmail account full after like 2 weeks? And it's like, we could just put one source of everything.
You mentioned you have Google Drive. Well, COVID helps with that. I know a bunch of bands who used to do that stuff. Even like I am from Peru, so many of the band's members are Peru and other members are in San Francisco, so they changed the Google Drive.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, they make a decent job.
It makes it easier. Why not?
Well,
Why work harder when you can work smarter?
And it also helps when we get into the studio too, because
you have idea?
Since we're able to kind of pre-production all the songs. Again, by the time we set foot in the studio, everybody is already pretty much locked in. We know what, even the final mix is going to kind of sound like. And we can even like save time because we also all have recording gear at home. So for instance, the two newest tracks we just put out, the only stuff that was really recorded at the studio was the drums and the vocals. Everything else we did from home. All the bass and guitars and stuff was just recorded, at our home studios, and then we just brought them into the studio and like reamped them, through bigger amps and stuff. But like, since we've got the whole demo process down so well, it's also just made going in the studio so much easier.
Cheaper too.
That too. So
it's not so much of Pete going, no, do it again, and
so it's been really efficient to do it that way.
Yeah, and with recording, we always try to all be there when we record a track, because to be realistic, like we're all kind of each other's backbones, like as into where if I had it my way, we'd do the same lyric for the 8 hours that we were there, because no, I could do it better. And luckily I have Shay or somebody else there. Like, that sounded great. Like, okay. So, like, I need somebody else to kind of stop me from getting into that repetitive, like, you're judging yourself too hard.
Looks like you are the mastermind behind the band.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I kind of like started the initial idea of this with Justin, then our original bass player, Sal. And what's been really cool about it is that it's like kind of seeing where everything's been going. So it's like, like Justin was saying, it's like I come up with a lot of ideas and a lot of like formats for like, okay, here's a song structure idea I have and everything, and here's kind of the direction I think of it. But then it's like, Tommy coming in and bringing like a style that like, I never could have like, even like tried to fathom. And then, on top of that, like Ian coming in and just like dominating with, you know, all these bass lines. And then Kevin bringing in this really cool element, because it's like I've had for so long where it's like I've just been the guitar player, and so there's not like a whole lot of room for like harmonies and like dual solos, and now we get to do that, and it's so cool because we get to both like kind of like see each other's style and kind of like, you know, morph with it. So yeah, it's been really cool to kind of like see how it's kind of evolving and changing into something for all of us.
Yeah, each time someone's been added, like it brings a new element to it. Because like even from like when I joined, you know, to compared to now, is like there's been so much progression.
Well, you were the bass player.
Yeah, well that too. But I mean, even just stylistically, you know,
No,
and
yeah,
just in the
absolutely.
way the songs are being written, you know, has just changed.
Honestly, I'm happy that we finally got our second guitar player. You know, originally it was always just, you know, Shay on guitar and the other band, and prior to Kevin playing, you know, lead rhythm. Either way though,
The
like,
rhythm guitar.
yeah. So like Shay has these amazing riffs even prior to him playing, Kevin playing guitar. And, like, you have your lead and your rhythm in the songs. And, like, when we did it live, he was still amazing at getting, you know, it working to where he was only able to play one part. So he kind of switched in between the lead and rhythm on certain parts when we played live. But when you're doing it live, the bass can only cover up so much. So, like, having that second guitar player just, it makes our live presence that much better, you know?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see you guys.
Yeah.
Really excited to see you. You tell me, like, you are two are the original former members?
Yeah. So both Justin and I, as well as Kevin, were in a band before this called Jury of Fears, and then we kind of like, you know, took a lot of those elements and kind of like amped them up. So there's a lot more of like elements of like, you know, if you know tempos before were like 140, 145. It's like now everything's at like 185 or 200 and it's like everything's like faster, more technical, cool time changes just to really screw with Tommy and you know things like that. So it's yeah, it's interesting because it's just kind of like it's a whole new vibe for us, and it
Keeps you on your
really
toes.
chill. And so yeah, it really forces all of us to kind of like bring our A game every time, where it's, you know,
You guys struggle finding new members?
Oh, God, that's a everyday struggle when you're trying to find somebody.
well, even our like Hellfire, the original track, like we for like for a year, like 2 years, we couldn't find Tommy because
the drummer just wasn't happening.
And so we actually like hired Austin Diamond from Devil Driver and Chimera, and we are just like, hey, here's like a quick demo of what we want to do. We can't find a drummer. Do you want to do drums for this? And he was like, yes, this is awesome. And he laid down like this really, you know,
Amazing track.
sick track for us. So
Ridiculously beastly track.
Intimidating for Tommy.
Yes.
So it's been cool because it's like we're kind of seeing like snapshots and where everything is progressing. So it's like Hellfire is like the original, like, okay, here's like the original concept and idea of everything. And then even like the two new tracks, Fate and Night Terror, are like a snapshot in like things in transition, because it's like that was when like Kevin switched from like bass to guitar. And so even whatever we end up doing next is going to be like Ian's influence as well. So it's going to be, everything's just going to keep progressing in this really cool way.
Yes.
Something I would like to know is like about their influence of each member of the band. You know, I know Ian Wang. We see us in many shows really often, so I cannot guess his influence. But I would like to know the rest. I saw you asking Alexandra Sure. It's a really cool band.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, like I'm kind of all over the place on this. Like, I mean, I have influences even from rap artists from back in the day, Tupac and stuff like that. But I don't add a lot of that to what we're doing now. But like, I mean, I'm literally influenced by almost all music except for country. I hate country, but like,
there's one or two
Wage
good songs.
War, Asking Alexandria, like the newer stuff and stuff like that. Like, like I love some of the new stuff coming out. Motionless and White, but I always go back to Pantera and Alice in Chains, and I mean, there's so many bands that no matter what, if I'm listening to it, it influences me in some kind of way.
You told me you're gonna see Mudvayne, right, with Megadeth. You excited for that?
I'm thinking about going to that show. I'm actually going to Limp Bizkit and Feldog, Mr. Corey Feldman.
So you're into new metal, basically.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Like, so I also love doing karaoke and stuff like that. And like my friends, when we're out at the bar, force me to do Limp Bizkit because apparently I can mimic his voice like very, very, very well. But new metal is what I grew up on, man. Like I love it. Korn, Limp Bizkit. I mean, even Orgies, stuff like that, man. Like I still listen to it.
That's cool. What about you?
I mean, yeah, I'm kind of all over the place in terms of like rock and metal. I kind of came to metal very like historically, like because growing up, my parents, they're both boomers, so it was a lot of like Beatles and Rolling Stones and that kind of stuff. And like as I got a little older, I would explore heavier and heavier music. So like it's like, okay, that's cool. All right, now I'm gonna check out like Led Zeppelin. Okay, that's cool. How about then Black Sabbath, and then I moved to like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and then got into like thrash stuff like Metallica, Megadeth. So just like, I mean, my main influences like as a guitar player are probably like the '80s thrash guys. Like I'm a huge Megadeth fan. Metallica, Anthrax, Exodus. Some like the progressive, like I'm also a big fan of like Queensryche on that, like a lot of the like dual guitar stuff. Like I'm really into like that, like Maiden, for instance. Yeah, but I've also gotten into this. Does Mastodon still count as like a modern band? They've been around for like 20 years. But yeah, I'm like I'm
like Maiden and these guys.
Yeah, I guess so. But like I'm a huge Mastodon fan.
You talk about Willis? Come on, man.
Yeah. Well, there's also like some like lesser known modern bands that I really like. Like there's one I like which is called King, Kyng, that I got really into recently. So yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. Everything from like Buddy Holly to like Mastodon and beyond.
I found really that fascinating where your parents introduced to rock. I go into rock for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone in my family listen rock, they don't like rock, so I started listening, I don't know, Slipknot maybe. Okay. That's what introduced me to all this stuff and getting way deeper
that's
actually.
That's a good band
deeper.
that introduced you into heavier stuff. Like definitely, like their first CD is still to this day gives me shivers down my spine, man. It's heavy.
I drive. I moved to California 1 year ago, and I drive all the way here. So I stop in the cemetery. I stop in the first bar they play. So was something like I need to do. If I cross Iowa, why not to do that? Like it's a big part of my childhood.
Oh, I hear you, man. I hear you.
I'm kind of on the same page as Kevin with my influences. I grew up my dad was an older guy. I loved the Beatles, so I grew up listening to the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and like the Allman Brothers and all that. And then I started getting into metal. I was really into Avenged Sevenfold and Slipknot and Disturbed and all that when I was growing up. And I think the drum parts were just like so creative that it kind of drew me in, because it's not like I like the thrash metal too. I was into Anthrax super heavy for a long time, but I feel like listening to Avenged Sevenfold, it was like all the drum parts. It's like you never know what was gonna happen next.
Double ride.
Yeah, right. So and then I went to school for jazz. So I played a lot of jazz for like 5 years straight and didn't play any metal. And now I'm back. So I think I'm, not on purpose, but I'm bringing a little bit of grooviness into the sound.
Very
well.
welcome.
You think about like some of the best metal like drummers, like for instance, speaking of Megadeth, like was it Gar Samuelson was like super into jazz, like all that stuff on like Peace Cells, what he was buying, like so.
Well, it's funny. Like Tommy's first jam with us, he comes in, and he's like, okay, I've been out of like the double bass game for a little bit, so it might be like a little bit off. He comes in and just like instantly like getting like all of like the hits on like Hellfire. I'm just like, that's you, Rusty.
How was the experience like playing only jazz?
I liked it a lot. I mean, it's kind of like a different animal, I mean, jazz it's all improvisation, so it's basically you and your bandmates just all kind of having this conversation together. So to go to like Blunt Force Karma, and it's like it's just a complete flip. So I've been enjoying it a lot, yeah, because it's like, okay, well, like it's about perfecting and, you know, just like exploding the songs as much as possible, right? Where it's like, okay, like I think I've got it down. Like, how can I make it harder?
Yeah. Well,
and for me, I love a lot of that like new wave of American metal, like new wave American heavy metal. So like, you know, Lamb of God, like Trivium, like Machine Head, Fear Factory, Chimera, like, you know, a lot of that stuff. So, pretty much anything early 2000s, like love that. Like I love that we've been able to like even work with, you know, some of like the like artists that I've grown up listening to with like members from Chimera in this too. So yeah, anything that's like a little bit dropped and chuggy and just like, you know, harmonic minor all over the place. So yeah,
so cool. Yo, the last one.
Yeah. So for myself, I grew up on like a lot of like heavy metal, some like glam. Like my first band that got me to like rock and stuff was White Lion, and it was this track. What was it? Radar Love was a cover from, I forget what it was, but it's just my dad's CDs basically. And then one day he was like, "Hey, here's this band Accept from Germany." And I was like, "Wow, this is fucking cool." So I never went back. A lot of Priest, a lot of Maiden. I like some jazz as well. Some of the, you know, big like John Patitucci or your Jocos or everyone. But, you know, Steve Harris and Geddy Lee are probably like my biggest, you know, bass influences. And I started listening to more like death metal, black metal. Thrash came pretty soon after because, you know, the progression from like heavy speed thrash was big on me also.
Yeah, when I grew up, I grew up for heavy metal to death metal.
Nice.
Later, I make the I go to thrash metal way later.
It's funny. For me, it was like all this metal, and then 2 or 3 years ago, I started getting into punk. So it's
Yes,
like
that's
way further out, and then
When I was in high school, I hang out with narco-punks, bro.
Oh, nice.
They show me all their shit, you know, like, yeah. No, it's not interesting for me, to be honest. Yeah. Well, but they play like underground shit, like, you know, they don't like, I don't know, NFX, Blink-182, they don't like that stuff. They like underground for garage stuff, like, you know, pretty
Blink
cool.
was huge for me.
No, yeah, for me too, yeah. Well, one of the questions I have is like, you have plans to record new material soon?
Oh, all the time.
Absolutely.
Right now.
We've got at least 2 new songs that we've been working on lately that are like, 3.
if you include the cover.
Let's say if you go off
Well,
Shay's
no,
list.
because it was Peacetaker,
Snake Eyes.
So it is 2.
Yeah.
Well, there's a third that's like kind of.
Yeah, we don't have the lyrics or the title for it yet, but Shay's
Yeah.
got a guitar track down with some scratch drums. Once we get Tommy on it, and you know, Ian and Kevin, I'll throw some more vocals over it. So yeah, we realistically have about 2-3 tracks that we're basically almost got all the way down and working on. But yeah, we're already talking about going back into the studio and laying down another track or something like that. I mean, me and Shay love to live in that place. I mean, going to
It's
the
actually
studio
only
is-
like 3 blocks from here, I think.
Oh, shit.
the studio is the best part of for me. That and playing shows, man, is the best part about being in a
Those
band.
are the only
Like-
parts.
I was going to say.
well, I mean, you got practice,
Yeah,
you got, but like, I mean, the feeling of playing shows is amazing, and it's like, as of my last band with Shay, Jury of Fear is the first time I ever actually got into an actual studio to record. Like, everything else has always been in-house. And, I got the experience of going into a studio, and like he says every time, it's his favorite place to be. It's like a magical experience, man. You get to get in there, you get to lay down your tracks, and you get to listen to how somebody who actually knows what to do with the soundboard makes them sound, and it's just, getting to hear your own art. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah. Should also mention, Kevin amazing recording engineer as well, and he
thank
does.
You flatter me, sir.
Well, he does a lot of work as well with other bands. You've got like Active Disorder that you're working on stuff. Oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that or not, but yeah, and so yeah, just throwing that out there.
Well, it'll also be exciting too because this will be the first time we'll be getting into the studio with Ian on bass.
Yeah.
Because he joined like right after we finished Night Terror and Fate. Because I actually played bass and guitar in the studio for those two songs. And he joined like a week too late to get in on it. So
It's so funny because Fate Night Terror came out like a month ago.
Yeah.
And I was so hyped. I was just telling everyone like, "There's this song in this band. I mean, whatever." But I'm not in it. Yeah.
I know how that feels.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. It'll be cool to get like this what I would consider to be the final incarnation of the band. The fully realized lineup in the studio to see like, because now we know how we sound live. At least at practice.
Yes.
We haven't been on stage yet, but we know it kicks ass. So it'll be great to like capture that and have like this is the band. It's been so long in the making, but like it feels like it's finally solidified and come to fruition, and that's really exciting. Because like, I can tell you, I'm like so excited about the stuff we've been writing. Because like, yeah, it's just like we just released a song and already I'm like, all right, let's get back in, let's do another one.
Yeah, we got plenty of demos to look at.
Yeah, that's the joy of being a musician. We love to create. So.
So maybe soon it's gonna be a full album.
We haven't really talked. I don't know if we've really talked about that because we've mostly been doing like 1 or 2 tracks at a time.
Yeah.
Just we got to be honest. In the Spotify era, sometimes full length albums tend to get lost.
Yeah.
People listen to the first couple tracks,
Yeah.
and then move on. So it's actually better to release stuff kind of spread out because it gives each individual song a little bit more attention.
Yeah, we learned that in our
if you release
last
10
band.
tracks at once, releasing one at a
Yeah.
time, that way each one kind of gets a spotlight on it. And it's like I think the music deserves that because we think it kicks ass. So we want people to hear these songs.
That's pretty cool.
I wouldn't be surprised though if some like concept comes up with everyone and we have like a album with where all the songs are connected or something. Because I like when an album has a purpose. Like when it's in the airplane over the sea or just these albums that have all these songs connected. Not I don't know. Like it makes you sit down and listen to the whole album instead of just picking.
Yeah.
I did not think we get a Neutral Milk Hotel reference in here, but there we go.
It was the first thing to come to mind.
At some point we'll have recorded enough songs to make up an album. So I would assume that's not in the near future, but at some point we'll probably like, oh yeah, we've got like 10, 12 tracks, so we could make an album out of this, and then put some thought into that. But I don't think we're quite there yet.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think that's probably like a next year kind of discussion.
Yeah, I'm looking at our drive here, and it looks like we've got 8 tunes that we could record and finish up pretty
Yeah,
quick.
so
So,
like that's it'll probably come at some point. But
Yeah,
like I said,
it's-
right now the short term focus is just getting we've been doing like 1 to 2 at a time. And
How long?
especially just getting in the studio time. Everyone's got jobs and
Of
stuff, so
course,
it's like
yes.
getting in for like putting aside a whole week to go and like do a full album. That's just a lot to ask.
well, and even just rehearsing them too.
Exactly, and getting them tight because we also don't want to like have 8 songs that we're juggling and then get in and like they're not ready to record. Whereas if we focus on like when we did Fate and Night Terror, we spent whole practices where we just played those 2 songs over and over and over again to get them really tight, so that when we got in the studio, we only needed to do like maybe 4 or 5 takes of each tune and they were good to go. Especially for the drums are the most important part because if I fuck up on the guitar or something, I can re-record it. But it's good to have one, at least one really solid drum take. So
Remember you asked me, you're like, a half day, is that going to be enough to record these 2 tunes? And I was like, if it's not, you should fire me. Like,
so yeah, like, it just gives us more focus too. So.
So you don't rehearsal like often?
it's like
At
like-
best, every other week.
Yeah, like maybe twice a month, sometimes once a month if it doesn't line up correctly. So that's why it's really
I live an
important.
hour and a half away from
Yeah,
these guys.
that's the
so-
thing is like we're all pretty spread out.
it
like,
also depends on what we got going on.
Right.
Because like when we recorded the tunes in the studio, we tried to make more time to practice because we knew we had a goal that we had to meet and a deadline. So it's like we have to go into the studio by this date. So we got to have the songs ready and rock solid. Whereas like right now, we don't have like studio time booked, and our next show isn't for another month or so. So it's like we know we can afford to have more time off in between practices. But I'm sure as the show gets nearer, we'll probably want to put aside more time to practice more often. So it also kind of just depends on what's going on.
Cool. So, I thank you. Oh, some other question I would like to ask is
Yeah.
like, who make the covers? I'm really impressed by the covers.
Yeah, that's Nahuel Amaya. I hope I'm saying his name right. I've never met him, and I can't remember where he's from right now. I've been trying to.
Argentinian.
Thank you. Okay, because I didn't want to get that wrong. But so we found him through Fiverr. He did a cover for our last band. And then when it came time for this one, it was like, oh, man, that was really sick. Like, we should totally use him again. And I hit him up again, and he's like, oh, yeah, absolutely. And so he takes, these, really rough concepts, which sometimes I've, scribbled out. Like, oh, here's a little demon stick figure in a corner looking down at someone. And the rest of the guys are like, what are you talking about? Like, that's the cover right there. It's perfect. But he takes these concepts and he finds ways to really flush them out. So he even incorporated in Night Terror, in that whole concept, we were like, okay, it's demons kind of they're tormenting this kid. And then he found more ways to add depth of oh, I'm thinking the kid's a soccer fan. So it's I've got cleats, I've got shoes. I've got one soccer
Picture of
posters.
Messi.
Yeah.
Like a poster on the wall.
So yeah, can't recommend him enough. He does all these really great and he's not only doing album artwork, he does a lot of comic book style art and everything.
Didn't he do the lyric video for us in our last band? Or
Yeah,
is that-
I think he did it in combination with another person he works with.
Well, it
but
was amazing.
Yeah, it was. So he phenomenal work.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. The album reminds me the Night and Fate reminds me the music video from Metallica, Enter Sandman.
Ooh,
It's kind of
yeah.
reminds that.
It was really exciting because I wasn't around when the Hellfire cover got made, but we all kind of threw in our 2 cents when we were doing that cover for Fate and Night Terror, and it was so cool seeing the work in progress because he every week or so he would send us like a screenshot of what he'd been up to, so it started out just a pencil sketch and then a little bit of color and then a little bit more color and then another element here, and it was just so cool just to see it slowly come into fruition because each time it was just getting cooler and cooler, and it's it's just interesting because I'm not much of an artist, but music, there's that the demo is the sketch and then the rough mix, and it's kind of the same concept of just watching it go from a really rough idea to the finished product. And we were blown away when we saw the final thing. We were just that's exactly what we wanted.
Yes. Would use again for sure.
Well, it's also it's I think it's cool when bands continuously work with a particular artist for the visuals because I think when we talk about some of these bands that have not only really distinct sounds, but there's you talk about Iron Maiden with Eddie on the covers,
Of course.
having that visual continuity to pair with the music, I think especially now in the internet age is really important to have your work stand out, and having that visual continuity along with the musical continuity, this is what we sound like, but this is what we look like, and that's what's really cool is working with him consistently and having like really cool art to go with what we think is really cool music, because it makes a statement.
You say that now. Next song's gonna be a ballad with a picture of a sunset, just to screw with you.
It's gonna be finger paint.
We getting jazzy?
And the new tracks, you record something?
What's it?
And
I've been recording just bass demos over, again, like what Shay and the other guys have posted on the Google Drive. Just going over ideas. It mostly had been going over like bass lines that Kevin and I already made with like Night Terror and stuff. But for the demos that I've been putting on the drive, we have a couple songs coming up, and it's just been like, listening to everything and just putting my ideas there, and like not a great recording, but like so that they can hear kind of like what I'm trying to do and whatever, and just do more than just like follow the guitar and follow this. I like a lot of melodic stuff. Again, Steve Harris.
Yeah, of course, yes. That's cool.
I mean, that's the great thing is getting a real bass player, because like I'm not like, I can play bass, but like I'm really a guitar player at heart, and that was the hard thing for me when I was playing bass. Is like I was always worried, like, am I playing bass like a guitar player? So it's great because Ian's like a real bass player, and like he really understands how to weave that in the guitars and everything, and having like that camaraderie with Tommy, to make a really strong rhythm section.
Thank you.
That's why I'm, like I said earlier, I was so excited to get in the studio with this lineup too, is just to like finally capture like the fully realized version of the band with everybody in it.
Yeah, like everyone have a strong experience, like you play jazz, you be in the scene for over 7 years, you say?
Oh man, it's
Forever.
no. It's been at least 10 years of doing vocals, man.
I mean, I think we've all been playing music for like most of our lives. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I played bass for the first half of my, not career, but like musical endeavors. Like I started off on the bass and just kind of ventured off from there. The only thing I never really got down and really dug into was drums. And just of recently, probably the last couple of years, I bought an electronic set, and I'm learning how to do that stuff too. But yeah.
Yeah, music's pretty much been the only thing I've ever wanted to do. I mean, even when I was like a little kid, I've got my mom's got pictures of me like standing on the coffee table in our living room with like my plastic toy guitar, miming along to the Beatles. So it's like, all I've really ever wanted to do is just play music and perform and record. So it's like it's great being in my 30s now and being like, yeah, I'm still doing it.
Hell yeah.
I'm still chasing that dream.
Yes.
There's a part of me that's still that 5-year-old with his plastic guitar.
Hey,
on the coffee table.
everyone asks me when's enough is enough, and I'm like, to be honest with you, like I'm not out to get famous. Like honestly, this is my passion. This is what I love doing. Like
It's
if
like
something
the
happens, it
journey
happens.
is the destination after all.
Yeah, like I don't need an outcome as long as I get to do this and I continue to play shows. My voice can handle it, and I get to hang out with a group of guys that are pretty awesome. Like I don't look at it as a waste of time or any. Everybody else wants to think, oh well, you're not rich, you're never gonna make it. Like who cares? Like in my eyes, I already have, man. I get to jam out and play with a good group of guys and do what I love. Like that's all it's about.
It's about the passion,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a line that most people who play music have to cross at some point in their lives. Is like you get to a point where like, okay, well maybe I'm not going to be rich and famous, but like, is
stop?
that the point? Like, why do I do this? Why does anybody make art?
You're doing it for the culture.
Well, I mean, like, not to sound pretentious, but like sometimes making art for art's sake is its own reward.
I would totally do it for the money if it was.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, we all would. Oh, we would all. Let's not mince our words. We would all sell out in a second. No.
100%.
If the money's on the table. But no, it's like nothing gets me off. More than playing music.
And there's
yeah,
your
you're gonna
headline.
stand a little farther
There's
next
the
time I
snip.
practice, aren't you?
Yeah.
No, but it's like when we all fire up at practice and we start playing, like it's like the best high you can get.
Yes.
And that's what I've been doing for most of my life playing music, is just chasing that high of just like when you're in it, especially when you're in a really good band with people that you really respect and get along with and play well with, like that's the best feeling in the world.
That's exactly what I meant about recording and playing shows.
Yeah,
You don't
so
get
it's
that
like-
feeling doing anything else.
Yeah, so it's like as long as I get that out of it, like because nothing's worse than being in a band when you're not having a good time. If you're not getting along with the other people.
I've never done that before.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, it sucks, and I've been in a few bands where it's like, you look across the room, you're like, I fucking hate that guy.
The radio
Like,
can't see my
it's so hard to enjoy, with all that shit. And then if you start like, oh, we're not gonna get famous, it's like,
Well, no offense to Tommy, but it's always the drummer that does it. You know what I mean?
every band that I've been in that fell apart, it's everybody else, and I'm just sitting behind my drums and tapping, and I'm like, why is everybody upset?
I was fully expecting you to say every band I've been in, it's always the drummer. I'm like,
Yeah, I've always just
me.
fucked things up for everybody.
he's the Ringo of the group. Oh, I'll just play the drums.
Yeah, straight up.
Well, guys, I want to thank you again, everyone, to be here.
Thank
to
you.
Yeah,
to
thank
the
you very
interview.
much. This
Thanks
is
to
a great pleasure.
thanks to Ian to let me borrow his equipment.
The equipment, of course.
And yes, and I'm really excited to see you this August 17 at
We
Reggies.
are so excited
Yeah,
to
August
do it.
17th.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
gonna be a
Reginald's.
fucking blast.
Absolutely.
I want to start the mosh pit there.
Hey, you do what you gotta do.
Dude, I'll jump off the stage and mosh with you.
Dude, yes. I was going to say.
To hell with the guitar playing. We'll see what happens.
It's funny. The first time I went to the music joint, I was like, do people mosh here? Like, it's so tiny. But yeah.
do now.
It goes
Yeah.
hard,
Yes,
and I
they
fucking
do.
You gotta push the
fell
tables
on-
aside.
Yeah, I fell on one of those tables. It's fun.
It's a great place. I can't wait to jam it out, man. Like
Fuck yeah.
it'll be the second time playing in that spot, but man, it's a
Yeah.
good environment.
It was great to have that be the first show too, because
Yes.
like, I mean Reggie's, as far as like Chicago venues, it's one of the, I'm gonna say one of the few venues that really supports the local metal scene, because like there's so many venues that would be great to play, but they're just like, oh, metal band, I don't know, we don't really do that. It's like Reggie's is like all in, so it's great that's going to be the first show.
Keeps the underground,
Yeah.
Exactly, because like I said, there's a great metal scene in the city, but there's not enough venues I think that really like support it.
Of
So,
course, yes.
But Reggie's is one of the ones that does. So
Yeah, it feels very validating to have Reggie's be our first show.
It's going to be well worth the wait
Yeah.
for what
Absolutely.
people can expect. And going to be a fun cover for everyone who knows it.
yeah. We're not gonna say it over this, but if you want to check out one of the best covers ever, come and check us out.
Yeah,
We
set
got
the
a whole
expectations
lineup.
higher, Justin.
Yeah.
come for the cover, stay for the other shit.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
just one song. We're not a cover band, we promise.
no, absolutely not, no cover band. But come and check it out. I guarantee, if you're a metalhead, you'll know the words and you'll love it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sissa.